Next, I'd like to introduce Hana Ayoob, who joined the AKU Society in 2012 after completing a BA in Natural Sciences and Management Studies at the University of Cambridge. The AKU Society is a patient group supporting those with the ultra-rare disease alkaptonuria, otherwise known as black bone disease. As clinical trials coordinator, Hana is responsible for patient recruitment, patient support, and dissemination for the Dropouts clinical trials. This EU-funded project involves 3 clinical studies looking at the use of nitisinone in AKU.
Thanks. Hi everyone, thanks Flora. So I want to talk about having a patient-centered approach to patient recruitment. So whilst I was trying to think about what to talk about today, I put a 2,000-word article that I wrote recently about patient recruitment and patient retention into sort of a word cloud generator, which for anyone who doesn't know, sort of generates word cloud based on how often the word is mentioned. And I was ridiculously pleased with the result. I mean, that pretty much says more than I'm probably going to say in the next 20 minutes. That, just patience always should be your number one sort of consideration when you're doing patient recruitment, which sounds ridiculous that it might not be, but it isn't always the case. So just to clarify, the study that Tony was just mentioning about is the same study that I work on. We have a drug called nitisinone. We know that it reduces an acid that causes AKU. However, we don't actually know whether that in turn leads to higher quality of life and reduced joint disease. To show this, we're doing 3 studies. We have SONIA 1, SONIA 2, and SOFIA. SONIA 1, or Suitability of Nitisinone in Alkaptonuria 1, was a 4-week study that involved 40 patients in 5 different groups who received different amounts of the drug. The point of SONIA 1 was to sort of find out which was the best dose to actually use in the second study, which is SONIA 2, which is Suitability of Nitisinone in Alkaptonuria 2. So for SONIA 2, we've got a group of 140 patients, and 70 patients will receive the treatment and 70 won't. Just to go back to the thing about the control group, as Tony mentioned, all our patients know which group they're going to be in. And the third study is SOFIA, or the subclinical ochronotic features in alkaptonuria study. This is just a natural history sort of study. It is a one-off study that's going to look at the difference in AKU symptoms in different age patients, which hopefully will show what age we should start treatment at. So the challenge. 30% of the clinical development timeline is taken up by patient recruitment, and 90% of all clinical trials actually experience delays because of patient recruitment. And these are in normal studies, not rare disease trials, where patient recruitment is an even bigger concern and can be an even bigger problem. In our study, we know of about 1,000 patients around the world, and we need 150 patients, roughly, for the trial to be a success. This gets even trickier when you realise that we're mostly restricted to recruiting from within the EU. This is because of restrictions placed by our funders, the European Commission, insurance problems, visa problems, etc. We've recently received permission to recruit from Jordan and possibly Turkey, but we're still largely restricted to the EU. We also can't recruit patients who are already taking the drug through off-label schemes, which rules out all Scottish and English patients. And there's other medical conditions that can rule out people as well. So I don't just want to talk about the challenges. We have quite a few solutions. Where we started was with our existing relationships. The AKU Society started in 2003. So through that time, there's lots of connections that we've made with patients around Europe, around the world, specialists and doctors as well. The Findacure consortium also consists of 13 organisations who have even more connections and networks around them. So first we started with our patients, 3 of our lovely patients. We started talking to the various patients that we had on our database. We immediately had quite a few who'd been interested in taking part before we'd even got the funding. And then we moved on to talking to specialists, doctors, researchers, geneticists, everyone that we pretty much were already in contact with. And finally, but most importantly, we had our sister societies. So when the project started, we had sister groups in Germany, France, Netherlands, and Italy. And we've now also started societies in Belgium and Slovakia. Sister groups have been really important for actually organising local meetings, because as much as email and the phone can cross geographical boundaries, there's nothing quite like being in the same room as someone to talk about the trial and to talk about why it's important. Sister societies have also been really good for actually getting over language barriers, which are a very real concern when you're recruiting across country boundaries. Our existing relationships have also been really useful because they're the people who have the most buy-in in what we're doing. They know the history, and also a lot of them serve to benefit in the long term. The AKU Society has also always had a very strong online presence, and we've built on that to raise awareness of the clinical trials and to increase patient recruitment. So in a study in 2013 by the Center for Information and Study of Clinical Research Participants in the US, 46% of research participants said that they found information online about the clinical trial they ended up taking part in, which was more than the amount who said that they found information from their doctor. This was also an increase from 25% in 2004. So for the Findacure project, we set up a microsite, which is separate from the AKU Society website. And when the website launched in June 2013, we had 120 visits in a month. 5 months later, this has increased by 486%. On every page of the website, we also have a register your interests box where people can just type in their name, their surname, email. That comes straight through to me, and I aim to reply to everyone within 3 days. And so far, we've had about 40 people who've got in touch through this, which is a large amount for a rare disease. We've also gone through social media channels. So we have a Facebook page, a Twitter page, and several patient communities on Patients Like Me and Reconnect. One of the nicest things we've found on Facebook, Reconnect, and Patients Like Me is patients who can't take part because of distance or any other reason, sort of cheering on the patients who can take part, which is a really sort of, nice way to see the community building up. So, for example, we've got a patient in Brazil who doesn't really even want to come over because it's too far, but she's always sort of trying to find out how it's going, whether people are, finding their visits okay, etc. So from these sort of two sources, the online awareness raising and our existing relationships, we recruited 14 of the 15 SONIA 1 patients who took part in our site in Liverpool. However, as I said, for SONIA 2, we need 140 patients, so we had to keep pushing beyond that, and we had to start casting our net much wider. So in my first few months on the job, I emailed hundreds and hundreds of specialists, so metabolic specialists, rheumatologists, anyone who might have had a connection with AKU patients. We also emailed national rare disease groups and other centres that might have been in contact with them. We recently did a fax campaign that targeted thousands of hospitals and GP centres across Europe. And we've also got Google Alerts set up, so whenever a scientific paper or a case study of an AKU patient goes online, we normally get an alert about it, and we immediately contact the authors to see if their patient might be interested or if they know any other patients. This has been probably the most time-consuming approach to patient recruitment, but it has also brought in about, I think, 11 patients, and every single one counts in this situation. Now, finding patients is one thing, but we then actually need to keep them on board. So from the moment that we make contact until they actually enroll in the study, but then from enrollment to the 4 years of our longest study. And this also requires sort of balancing recruitment and retention. Often with recruitment, it can be easy to sort of just push for the numbers, and even if a patient may have worries about staying in, you may just want to get those numbers up. But we've realised it's very important to also talk through with patients, make sure that they understand what they're getting themselves into, explain things like the non-treatment arm and why we need it. We also have put quite a lot of emphasis on getting patient input into even the study design. So our most sort of invasive assessment in our longest trial is an ear biopsy. And lots of patients were questioning, they said they were worried, they didn't really want to have it done. And in the end, after quite a lot of consultation within the consortium, this part of the study was made optional. The thing is, alongside the patient input, we've also tried to explain why we're doing things. And interestingly, even though the ear biopsy has been made optional, every patient who's coming to Liverpool has actually agreed to have it done once we've explained why we're doing it and why it's so important. We've also done our best to explain why we have a non-treatment group, why there's a control group. And I think it's just important to, like I said, explain why you're doing things, not just this is how it's going to be. And again, we constantly provide our patients with information. We have e-newsletters, social media. We've done 2 webinars with the lead investigator on the trial, so patients have actually been able to ask him questions directly. And in the 2013 study, it also showed that 68% of research participants said that getting regular updates influenced their choice to participate in a clinical trial. We also try and make it easy for our patients to take part. So in our first trial, we had some problems with reimbursing patient expenses, and we've done our absolute best to make sure that that process is streamlined for our second trial. We also make sure that patients tell us if they have any problems. We ask for feedback. We have conversations with them when they're at the test centre. And 38% of clinical trial dropouts say that they found their experience stressful, compared with only 16% of participants who actually complete a clinical trial. We also focus a lot on relationships. So I try and have a one-on-one relationship with every patient who's coming to our Liverpool test centre. I'm happy if a patient understands the study. I'm happiest if I know that their recent holiday to Tenerife was really nice, or they've had, a friend visiting from America and they've improved their English ready to come to Liverpool. I think relationships between the patients who are seeing each other at the test centre are also very, very important. And 61% of clinical trial participants say that feeling part of a community actually, influenced their choice to participate. These are a few of our patients who took part in our trial in Liverpool. And I think the important thing about building relationships with patients is it can come back to help recruitment. I was recently in Liverpool with a patient who, when he found out we're still looking for another 10 patients, has said that he's going to talk to all the patients he knows and tell them how he's found the study and, to tell them to contact me if they're interested. We also found that quite a few of our AKU patients have never met another AKU patient in their life before they take part in the study. And this is a quote from a patient who took part in a previous trial in America. And she said that the first time she met another patient, it was as though she'd found a family member, finally someone who understood. So just to go back to this slide, that is what we're constantly trying to do at the AKU Society. And I think what we're also trying to convey to everyone in our consortium, and it's definitely the focus for all of us, which is really nice. A take home is be relentless with finding patients. Don't worry if you're going to annoy a few doctors because they've had emails from 3 different people asking them if they've got AKU patients. Keep providing information and also keep it personal. So thank you very much, and does anyone have any questions?